Hey everyone, now that S550 GT500 production has officially come to an end, today I want to cover all the different colors that were available for this car. Now Ford has not officially released the production numbers for this car yet, so we don't know the actual breakdown of how many of each color were produced. But today I want to go over each individual color that was available for this car. Now for the 3 years of production of the GT500, there were a total of 22 different colors available. There was 11 different colors for 2020. There was also 11 colors for 2021. And there were 14 different colors available for 2022. Now, of those 22 different colors available for this car for that 3-year production lifespan, 5 of them were available for all 3 years of production. 4 were 2-year only colors, and there were 13 1-year only colors. There was 3 in 2020. There was 2 in 2021, and there were 8 1-year only colors for 2022. Now, one thing I've tried to convey in my videos is colors are the one thing that you absolutely have to look at in person before you commit to buying something this expensive. The Ford website does an absolutely terrible job with their digital renderings, and they do not properly represent what these cars actually look like in person. Even high definition photos on the internet really don't do these cars justice. So if you were looking to purchase one of these, you have to look at the car in person. Even under different lighting conditions in person, the colors can look very different. Inside versus outside, overcast versus sunny, especially the metallic colors. They can look completely different, and that's the same issue I ran into when I was searching for this car. When I initially looked at this color in an overcast condition, I didn't like it, but in a nice sunny, bright condition, it looked a lot better. So that's why you absolutely have to look at the colors in person when you go to purchase one of these. Now, obviously stripes were a very popular option for these cars, and I don't want to get into the breakdown of all the different color and stripe combinations because that would just be too many to go over in this video. So since they are so popular, I just do want to cover them very, very briefly. You had 2 different options for stripes. For over the top, you had vinyl, which was a $1,000 option, and then you had the painted stripes that were a $10,000 option, and that was true for all 3 years of production. You also had the option for a side stripe along the rocker panel. That was a $395 option. So the simple way to kind of tell the cars apart is if it has the stripes on the over the top and on the rocker, that's a vinyl car, because if you opted for the $10,000 painted stripes, you couldn't get the vinyl stripes down the rocker. So it's kind of a way to sort of tell them, easily tell them apart. You also had an option for a painted roof that was $695 that you can get pretty much on any car. The only real exception to these rules were the 2022 Heritage Edition that was Brittany Blue. I'll get into some more depth about those exceptions when I cover that color individually. So let's go ahead and take a look at every one of the 22 different colors that the S550 GT500 was available in. Now let's start off with the colors that were available for all 3 years of production from 2020 to 2022. You had Shadow Black, paint code G1. That was a very popular color, black. Ford had used it on many other vehicles before, and if you wanted just your relatively standard black GT500, Shadow Black would be the color that you would go with. You also had Oxford White, paint code YZ. Oxford White's a color that has been around for decades with Ford. It's a very bright white color. If you've ever looked at a white Ford vehicle before, odds are you have seen Oxford White. You also had Race Red, paint code PQ. That's one of my personal favorites. That is a very loud, in-your-face color red. When you think of red sports cars, Race Red is the color that would come to mind. You also had Rapid Red, paint code D4. Now that was a metallic paint. That was a $395 upcharge, and it was $495 for 2022. That's a more subtle red, sort of a maroon burgundy, not nearly as loud as Race Red was. And finally, you had Iconic Silver, paint code JS. It was also a metallic color, and that's a pretty standard silver color Ford had used on many other vehicles before. If you wanted just a relatively standard metallic silver color, Iconic Silver would be the color you would go with. As far as the 2-year colors, you had Ford Performance Blue, paint code L1. That was a metallic color from 2020 to 2021. That's a sort of a medium blue color, pretty popular. It was not too dark, not too bright. You also had Velocity Blue, paint code E7. That was a metallic color from 2020 to 2021. That was also sort of a medium blue like Performance Blue was. Now that was one of the colors, because it was metallic, you really could see a big difference from dark lighting conditions versus very bright lighting conditions. So Velocity Blue was a very popular color because it was a really nice, sort of loud medium blue color. You also had Twister Orange, paint code CA from 2020 to 2021, and that was a $495 upcharge for Twister Orange. That was a very loud colored orange, like a very, almost like a neon orange, very loud. That was a color you would see coming from a mile away. And then finally, Carbonized Gray, paint code M7. That was a metallic color from 2021 to 2022. Carbonized Gray was a very standard Ford colored gray. If you just wanted a standard gray color on your GT500, Carbonized Gray would be one of the colors that you would definitely consider. And finally, the 1 year only colors. For 2020, you had Grabber Lime, paint code F9. This was also a very loud, very in-your-face color. It was basically like a neon lime green, and you could see it coming from a long distance away. You also had Kona Blue, paint code L6. That was a metallic color. That was one of the darker blues offered for the S550 GT500. It was a very dark blue color, and it was good for somebody who wanted maybe something pretty dark, but not quite as dark as something like Shadow Black. And finally, for 2020, you had Magnetic, paint code J7, also a metallic color. This was basically the standard gray color for 2020, and it was succeeded by Carbonized Gray for 21 and 22. For the 1 year 2021 colors, you had Antimatter Blue, paint code HX. This was also a metallic color, and this was the darkest of all the blue colors offered for the GT500. This color often looked black unless it was in direct sunlight because it was such a dark blue color. And finally, you had Grabber Yellow, paint code CB. This was a very bright, very loud yellow color. This was almost like taxi cab yellow, and you could not mistake this color for anything else. And finally, the 1 year only colors for 2022. Now let's start off with what will likely be the most popular color for 2022, and that is the Brittany Blue that is part of the Heritage Edition. Paint code EB. That is a metallic color with a $2,140 upcharge. Now that was not just because of the paint, but because of the aspects included in the Heritage Edition. Now in standard form, the Heritage Edition came with vinyl stripes over the top as well as vinyl stripes on the rocker with GT500 integrated into them. You could opt for the $10,000 painted stripes, which would remove the vinyl stripes on the rocker, and GT500 will be integrated into the painted stripes on the hood itself. You could not get a Brittany Blue Heritage Edition without stripes from the factory. There was also no option for a black roof on the Heritage Edition. Now there's been some confusion about the actual Brittany Blue color itself, because when Ford debuted the color, they had a 1967 GT500 in Brittany Blue in the background, and if you look very carefully at that photo, you can tell that the 67 Brittany Blue and the 22 Brittany Blue are two different colors. 67 is a more blue color, 22 is a more silver color. That is because it is not the same. Ford actually used a Lincoln color on the 22 Heritage Edition called Chroma Crystal Blue. So Ford basically just took that Lincoln color that had been used in previous years, and they named it Brittany Blue for the 22 GT500. And if you look up the paint code for Lincoln Chroma Crystal Blue, you will see that it is also EB, like the 22 Brittany Blue on the Heritage Edition. Ford also did Atlas Blue, paint code B3. That is a metallic color. That is the color of my car. That was sort of a medium blue that replaced Velocity and Performance Blue for 2022. You also had Code Orange, paint code CN. This is a very reddish color orange. In some lights, it actually looks almost exactly like race red. Even I sometimes have a hard time telling Code Orange in certain lightings compared to race red. You also have Cyber Orange, paint code SB. This is a metallic color with an upcharge of $695. Cyber Orange almost looks yellow in some lights. It is a very yellow orange color, very different from Code Orange. You also had dark matter gray, paint code HY, a metallic color as well. This is a very dark gray color. And if you actually look at the paint very close, you could almost see a hint of almost purple in the flakes if you look at it very closely, but it is a very dark colored gray. You have eruption green, paint code FA, also a metallic color. Now this was sort of a medium green. It was not nearly as loud as something like the Grabber lime green was, but it was a pretty neutral green. It wasn't too dark. You can tell even in lower lights that it was a green color, and it was a very nice, very popular color. You also had Grabber blue, paint code AE, a metallic paint. Grabber blue was the lightest of all the blue colors offered for the GT500. A little bit darker than something like a baby blue, but a pretty loud blue color just because of how light it was. And finally, you had mischievous purple, paint code P2, and that was also a metallic color. That was originally called oil slick purple, but they decided to go with mischievous purple instead for production of that car. That is a very dark purple color, and that is one of the colors that in lower light conditions, it looks black until you take it into a very strong light or into direct sunlight, and then the heavy metallic flakes in the purple become very pronounced, and it is a color that you can definitely tell it is a deep purple color in bright sunlight. And those are all 22 colors for the S550 GT500. All right, so final thoughts. I have to give Ford a lot of credit for offering this car in so many different colors, despite it being such a relatively short production lifespan. This gave buyers a tremendous amount of choices for what color they wanted to go with. And after looking at all of the different color options, I think it's pretty much safe to say, regardless of what your personal preference is, this car wears every color very well, whether it's metallic, non-metallic, dark or light. With the lines of this car, pretty much any paint color works. Stripes or no stripes. It's a phenomenal looking car, and it looks great in pretty much any color combination. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.